Welcome back to the channel, my little piglets. The place where we dip our moist snouts into the trough of current affairs and politics. Today, we talk about the Cambridge and Oxford University protesters attempting to protest in favour of a prescribed terrorist organisation who, believe me, all you Queers for Palestine fans out there, would love to throw you off the nearest bloody car park. Yes, I'm talking about Hamas. But before we continue, I'd like to ask you to put a trotter on the subscribe button, a trotter on the like, and at the end of this video, please comment what you think about what is going on. Without further ado, my little piglets, let's go. This from Michael Deakin. The BBC seems eager to reassure us that the students taking over the campuses to protest against Israel are gentle, peace-loving pillars of the community, rather than, as some members of the public might have supposed, a pack of brainwashed, Jew-hating apologists for terrorism. Michael, I tend to agree with the latter part of that description there, young man. To this end, on Sunday, the BBC News website ran an article headlined, "Inside the Peaceful and Proud Gaza Protest Camp at a UK University." The article certainly made all involved sound like lovely people. There was just one small snag. Directly beneath the Peaceful and Proud headline was a photo of a student protester whose face was completely obscured by a big black mask. Now, I've no doubt that this student, who for some reason asked not to be named, is a delightful human being who wouldn't hurt a fly, not even a wicked Zionist one. I would just say, however, that if I was staging some form of protest and I wished to show the public that my goals are entirely peaceful, I would probably decide against wearing a big black mask. Otherwise, the public might think that A, I looked a tiny bit intimidating, and B, I was carefully concealing my identity because I intended to commit some sort of crime, possibly a violent one. Also, Michael, you might be pleased to know that it's actually illegal to protest in the UK whilst covering your face up. But for some reason, Plod in Cambridge and Oxford, and also in London over the last few weeks and months, don't seem to care a jot about the law. Still, it isn't just masks that seem to be de rigueur at these protests. There's another item of clothing that is possibly even more popular. It's the keffiyeh, a type of traditional Palestinian scarf that is typically used as a headdress, and it's been worn by lots of left-wing students, even those who happen to be white, which is fascinating. Because for the past decade, left-wing students in both Britain and America have been telling us very loudly and angrily that white Westerners shouldn't wear the traditional clothing of other ethnic groups, because that is, well, cultural appropriation. And they've repeatedly warned us that it's offensive, hurtful, and almost certainly racist. In 2019, for example, the Students' Union of the University of Sheffield declared that it was insensitive to wear a sombrero. I would like to say to all the pigs and piglets out there in sties throughout the land that I'm sorry that I've had to dress up in your traditional snout dress. Cultural appropriation indeed, oink oink. In 2018, the Students' Union at the University of Kent agreed that it was unacceptable to dress up as a Native American or Red Indian, a term which itself is now considered unacceptable. And in 2015, hundreds of students at Yale staged furious protests after a female lecturer said that people should be free to wear whatever costumes they wished, including those from other cultures. Shortly afterwards, she resigned. Perhaps, however, this lecturer was simply ahead of her time, because in 2024, it's apparently deemed wholly acceptable, even admirable, for white Westerners to don the clothing of other ethnic groups, as long as they're doing it to demonstrate their hatred of Israel. And don't you forget, little piglets out there, this is what this is all about. They couldn't care less about the people dying on both sides of the border in Israel and in Gaza, demonstrated by the fact they don't care about the Muslim Uyghurs, the vast amount of Palestinians expelled from Yemen over the last 10 years. They only care because it is Israel, the only country in the world that is not allowed to defend itself against a neighbour whose whole sole aim and reason for existing is the destruction of Israel. To be clear, I've nothing against white people wearing the keffiyeh. All I'm saying is that when left-wing activists decided to make abrupt changes to the rules they're sought to impose upon society, I wish they'd let the rest of us know. Say by sending out a helpful memo or press release. Attention all citizens. Cultural appropriation is no longer considered a heinous offence against the marginalised and oppressed minorities. Instead, it is now considered a noble expression of solidarity with them. Please update your records accordingly. Something along those lines. Otherwise, it's not easy for the rest of us to follow the rules if we're no longer sure what they are. That was Michael Deakin there on the 7th of the 5th, 2024, in The Telegraph. I'll leave a link to that particular article in the notes below. Lots of these lefty student groups, piglets, are also against invasions and colonizations of the past. Yet they still don't care about the 700,000 people that came to this country just last year, lots of whom are undocumented or come on free student visas along with their children to study in this country, but it doesn't matter about that, does it? We can be invaded and colonized just fine. Sometimes I wish the people who came over here on boats or whatever they've come over on would actually try a bit of cultural appropriation of their own and actually try and assimilate in this society. But for now, us normal piglets, swilling around in the mud of normal life, dipping our moist snouts into the trough of current affairs and politics, we just have to sit back and keep our mouths shut. Because we know what happens if we say anything against these stupid protesters at the universities, apparently the most intelligent people in our societies. If you say anything against them, you will be shut down. You could possibly lose your job. You could now possibly have your bank account taken away from you. The simple truth of the world we live in is that there is only one truth in these people's minds, and that any debate one way or the other will be treated in the way that this young Jewish student was treated on King's Parade in Cambridge just a few days ago. The ideology that has permeated universities across our country is the ideology of fear, is the ideology of hatred towards Judaism, white people, and the West. But above all, it is the self-hatred of these students who've never had it so good. Later on in the day, it started pissing down with rain in Cambridge, and despite all the shouting and flag waving and hand-wringing of these students against what's going on in Gaza and Israel at the moment, their belief system and structures couldn't stand up to the grey English weather in early May. And over half of them went home to their beds, their digs, probably to sit down and watch Netflix, order in a Chinese takeaway, drink a glass of Malbec, and plan their next completely fucking stupid protest using the money of mummy and dad. I, for one, cannot believe that these little piglets are the future leaders of our society. The quicker they are chucked out of university and replaced by people of excellence and not by people of stupidity, the better. As ever, piglets, let me know what you think in the comments below. Bang a trotter on the like button, bang a trotter on the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video. Remember, piglets, trotters up.